Hello and welcome to Roots to Sprouts, and this is part 2 of our interview with Ari Anna and Sandra. I'm very happy to say that I've received a lot of feedback and inputs from you all about the part 1 interview and the information that Ari Anna shared with us, and I'm sure part 2 is going to be even more interesting and informative for you all. Let's get into the video, but before that, let's have a quick recap of what we saw in part 1, and if you want to see more, go back to the video that we posted last week and get more information about the part 1 what we did. But a lot of people had a question that whether jasmine plant can survive in the ground or doing something special or not.
There is nothing special, right? The one thing you need to understand is jasmine sambak is.
And now, what are the perennial plants that comes every year in the garden, and which are the ones that you plant and you grow every year?
So any tropical plant, right, like which we have.
Let's take a look at some of the tropical plants.
It's a naval param, right? Like in Tamil, it's a very popular fruit which is sold only in the street vendors.
How many different varieties of jasmine you have, Anna?
Tara, to start with sambak. The next variety is mullai.
Please check the link in the description for the full interview of part 1. Les, what are the different type of fertilizers that you use in the garden, and what you would suggest for beginners or others that they should try to get a good produce and keep the plants healthy, Anna?
So Tara, if you look at, there are only two types available, right? Like in general, right? Like one is synthetic and the other one is organic, right? And recently I've been discussing with a friend who wanted a vegan fertilizer. Mm-hmm. Right? So the synthetic one is completely chemical, right? Like there is a lot of buzz about organic growing and healthy growing, right? So the synthetic is chemical, but it is easy to use, and you get the benefits immediately, right? Like you fertilize the plant, the next day the nutrients are available for the plant to consume. Correct. So this is synthetic, right? But the plant doesn't differentiate between a synthetic fertilizer or a organic fertilizer, right? Like for the plant, the nutrient is coming from the soil, right? Like the microbes have to play around both synthetic as well as the organic and convert it to nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium in the way the plant can consume it. Correct. Right. But for the beginners, like your question is like for the beginners, I would suggest to go with synthetic because of our short growing cycle. Okay. Right? Just to not to get depressed or discouraged from not getting the right yield with organic. Right. Like because the organic has its own way of setting up and preparing so that you can see the right yield at the right time. Correct. Right? Like so, I would suggest for the beginners to go with something called as Osmocote. Right? That is a slow release fertilizer, and it is also guarantees no burn to the roots or the leaves.
And is there any particular time when they need to apply, Anna, like before the sun rises in the morning or late in the evening? Is there any particular time?
So whenever you fertilize, right, like do it either in the morning or in the evening, so that you're not doing it at the peak time of it's hot or something, right? Like so whenever you fertilize and cover the fertilizer with soil, right? The fertilizers are activated by light and heat and water, right? Like okay. So it's better not to waste the fertilizer by not covering it, right? Like fertilize it and water thoroughly, right? Like with the slow release, you don't have to worry about whether I'm over fertilizing or under fertilizing.
Okay.
Right? Like so that's a good starting point for a beginner. Right? Like
And also now another question, like at what stage this fertilizer can be applied?
So each stage, the plants need different fertilizers, right? Like so for a seedling, right? Like when the seed sprouts, the seed will have food for at least a week or two, right, from the seed itself, right? You don't have to feed it right away, right? But you have to give after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, right? Like for the plant to grow, because it's in a small pot or a small soil. It needs some energy, right? Like so at that time you need to look at providing some all-purpose fertilizer, which is very light in strength, right? Like say if the recommended strength is like 1 teaspoon per gallon, you need to go with half or 1/4 of the strength, right? Like so add 1/4 of a teaspoon of fertilizer and then fertilize it, right? Because the plant is very tender, the roots are young and the shoots are also very tender, right? Like so that's one thing, right? Like and then your passion kicks in. If you get experienced with growing, then you start looking at switching to organic fertilizer or your own fertilizer. With organic, I would like to caution that organic takes time to convert the fertilizer into nutrients, right? Like the microbes have to work, and most of your organic fertilizer are based off of either blood meal or bone meal or feather meal for thing, right? Like so these are all byproducts of animals, right? Like or birds, right? Like after the birds or animals are slaughtered, the leftovers are used for producing the fertilizer. And also they add a lot of microbes into it, right? Like which helps speed up the conversion.
And also they need to tolerate the kind of the kind of a smell that they get when they are trying to apply these things, right?
That's exactly correct, right? Like it takes time, but definitely when you fertilize with organic fertilizer, you need to cover the fertilizer with the soil, right? Like rake it inside the soil, otherwise you will see a lot of flies and bugs around that place, right?
And lot of organic things which is fermented or which is like for example fish oil, these kind of things, even when you apply, the tolerance level need to be really high in order to accept the smell and then to work with it, right?
Yeah, even if you are a person who eats fish, applying fish fertilizer or fish emulsion is going to be like stinky.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, but I have seen a lot of people talking about that they don't get to see the right yield, or the plants are not responding to the fertilization schedule, right? That's because of the organic soil and the organic fertilizer which they are using.
Okay.
Right? Like what happens is, like when you spend hundreds of dollars to get organic soil, right? When some of the bulk soil comes as inert, right? Like they go through a lot of process and it needs to be activated. Soil will not respond, it will not kick off, and the plants will not get all the nutrients it needs.
Yeah,
right.
So, I think that's why somewhere I read people said like don't feed your plant, feed your soil. It will do all the rest.
Correct. So if you're see the most of the time we buy bulk, right? Like when you are setting up 3-4 raised beds,
correct,
you are going to buy it in bulk, and when the bulk soil is invariably inert, right? Like they need to be, you need to add some fish fertilizer, or you need to add some organic fertilizer. Only then it'll start kicking off, right? Like adding a worm casting or something which will activate the microbes in the soil, right? Like, and then most of the time people will see like, okay, hey, last year I did not get enough yield, but this year my garden is doing good, right? Like that's because it took 6 months to 8 months for the soil to get ready.
Soil is matured and it is rich with all the materials that it need. Okay.
Right. So when you do it at the right way, right, like activating all these things, providing the right, because when you are planting, you need to plant it with some compost, right?
Yeah.
Like each
Yes.
hole add some compost, add some fertilizer. That gives an instant kick to the plant to start the cycle.
Okay. Do you also do compost at home, Anna, or you will?
I do compost because with the amount of refuse I will be getting from the garden, I have a 35-gallon trash can, couple of them, and also I have a trash tumbler.
Okay.
Right, like I try to at least make 3-4 cubic feet of compost every year, right? In addition to that, I also do pot composting, right? Like that is, I find it easier, right? Like I just dump a pot and put another pot on top of it, and then in a couple of months, this is a no-till composting, right? Like in a couple of months, I'll see the complete composting has happened.
Okay.
Right. In addition to that, I also do other composting. Like I've been doing some worm composting.
Okay.
So worm bins are there. I also do bokashi.
Okay.
Right. So I just try to maximize my time so that I also can get additional composting, which is not possible with the traditional way of composting.
That's right. Okay.
Anna, Dallas Fort Worth has a very rich Asian population, and a lot of people are looking for tropical and Asian vegetables to grow, and because of the high demand, we always ran out of vegetables. Or if people want to grow the plants from the seeds, that's a different story. And I do understand that you help people in sharing these plants and helping them to grow these Asian and tropical vegetables. Can you please tell like how people can reach you and approach you to get these plants, and what is the best way to reach you, Anna?
So Tara, like you're saying, right, like definitely there is a lot of demand and also passion for growing Indian vegetables, right? Like, and also most of the tropical plants, right? Like that gives you the home-like feeling as well as your memories back in those younger days, right? So we have a couple of WhatsApp groups, right? Like where we communicate to people, and also word of mouth, and also friends referring their friends, right? Like so, some of my plans are across the country, right? When friends visit Dallas, they just carry it with them on the flight, right? Like, and so same way locally, when people reach out, we try to give them, right? Like we do have a demand that is more than what I can supply. That's how I can put it, right? Like, but definitely I have repeat people coming to me repeat, right? Like even if the plant is available in the store, they don't go there, right? Like reason is like they feel at home, as well as they feel it auspicious, or something that they think that okay, I got it from Sandra and it is growing and yielding better. And what makes us happy is when people provide the feedback with the pictures of their yield, right? Like that's when it makes you happy as well as content, right? Like the time and effort you spend, and you can see people start asking me, Sandra, starting Jan or Feb, they will start pinging us, right? Like, hey, when are you getting ready? So that's definitely. I never thought that this will become a community service kind of activity for a Dallas area.
Yes, definitely. See,
also you will see a lot of people are motivated to grow in their backyard. You have been seeing samples of Indian vegetable saplings, herbs like gotukola, vallarai, tulasi, nilavembu, tuduvalai, various spinaches like punangani, amaranth, flower plants like jasmine. During peak season, Madurai Malli, Jasmine Sambak, Mullai and Kanagambaram flowers are also available fresh right here in Dallas. Also fresh vegetables are available during summer. We do start plants from seeds, cuttings, propagation and bulbs. All annuals like bitter gourd, okra, eggplant, snake gourd, to name a few, are carefully started from seeds during late winter indoors, so the saplings are ready for late spring. Due to high demand, we start also multiple batches of seeds at various intervals due to space constraint. Healthy seedlings are given only when the temperature is stable and the saplings have established a strong rooting system. All you have to do is just transfer it to a raised bed or to a bigger pot and take care of the plants. They will start yielding as much as you take care of them. Happy gardening.
I really thank for your time and the knowledge and the information you shared. It's greatly appreciated, Anna.
Thank you very much, Tara. Appreciate the time you have taken and spending so much time recording, editing, and interviewing, and also giving the visibility to the community as well as friends and their families and families, right? Like, so if anyone interested to learn are most welcome to reach out to us, right? Like, we'll help them in whatever way it is possible to help them.
Yeah,
like,
and I always pointing out to you and asking you question. I know there is a big supporter behind you, Sandra. I didn't ask any question to Sandra, but I know how much of support and the effort she had put into the garden behind you. And most of the time, she does a lot of the things than you, I believe, sometimes.
definitely, right?
It's not to underestimate Sandra and pointing all the questions to you. Whatever I've been telling, it goes equally to Sandra also. So please convey my thanks to her, Anna.
Definitely, she's the backbone of the Green Garden group, as well as the garden itself, right? Like, there are a lot of people who know her than me, right? Like,
okay, Anna. Thank you so much, Anna, once again.
Thank you, Tara. Appreciate it.